Within the Bleach universe, there exists gods and kings. Now, these are beings who can reshape all of reality with their power alone. They are forces that are older than the universe itself. There also exist noble families who use specific tools to rule over these forces. The rules and customs of the Soul Society have always been very interesting concepts for anyone who wants to delve into the world building of Bleach. The Soul Society arc was an excellent example of the ideological clashes between the law and order of the Soul Society versus one's own desires. It is during the Soul Society arc where we learn about the Central 46, a mysterious group of individuals who govern over the law and order of the Soul Society. They decide what should and shouldn't be done. Despite being such an integral part of the Soul Society, little is discussed about the Central 46. In this video, I'm going to break down everything that we know about this group, from how they create the laws that govern the order of the Soul Society, all the way to the ruthless enforcement of these rules. It's time to discuss one of the most ruthless and heartless groups within the entirety of Bleach. In order to better understand the Central 46, we need to look at the power hierarchy of the Bleach universe and the government system in general. Before the Soul King was mutilated and had become the linchpin of reality, very little is known about the system of law and order that the Shinigami or even the primordial world had abided by in those times. So it's difficult to determine how it had functioned. But what we do know is that the Shinigami like Ichibei and Uetsu Nimaya were around during this time, and they were working with the four noble Shinigami families. The existence of a council of judges like we see within the current iteration of the Bleach universe isn't really shown in this primordial world, nor is there any evidence of their existence. So it stands to reason that they were established after the Soul King was made the linchpin of the three worlds. We can also conclude that Ichibei and the four leaders of the noble families had a hand in the creation of the Central 46. This was most likely done so that the will of the Soul King would still have an enforcing hand within the Soul Society, while Squad Zero remained within the Soul King's palace protecting him. The Zero Division are believed to be the enforcers of the will of the Soul King. But after what we know about the Soul King, it really makes one wonder whose authority they are actually abiding by, because they are certainly not taking orders from the Soul King. While it does appear that the Soul King communicates under special circumstances, as we see within the manga and the anime, I find it hard to believe that he would be communicating about legislation which needs to be relayed to the Central 46. So it pushes me to believe that the Central 46 doesn't enforce the Soul King's will, but rather that of the powers that had established it, namely Ichibei, Uetsu, and the noble families. The reason that I make this conclusion is that the Central 46 seems to have a bit of an inclination to answer to the whims of the noble families, or at the very least, they are biased towards them. Now, this was one of the leading reasons that areas like Rukongai was so impoverished. They are often disregarded by the Central 46, who appear to only bother themselves with issues that affect the noble families or the Shinigami. The matters of the common soul within the Soul Society are fairly ignored in their rulings, and it seems to have some very interesting ties to the Buddhist law that Bleach takes inspiration from, but that's a video for another day. This judiciary group is also one of the reasons that the Soul Society is so corrupted and rife with injustice. In a lot of ways, the Central 46 was a main inspiring force in Aizen's rebellion, because he had in fact gone out of his way to murder every single member of this group. Now, this is an important distinction to make, because while Aizen was evil, he didn't go around mindlessly murdering everyone. He specifically decided to avoid killing any members of the Gotei 13, and he had outright stated that he'd allow them to live so that they could witness the world that he was about to create. But when it comes to the Central 46, Aizen had showed no consideration for their lives, and he had immediately killed them. You can also pair this action up with Aizen's desire to kill Yamamoto, because he's the embodiment of the Soul Society's ideals. You can understand that he wants to get rid of anybody who represents the current status quo, figures in command or institutional groups who serve the Soul King and the reality that has been built around him. You can appreciate that the Central 46 are pretty close to the top of the totem pole when it comes to the power hierarchy of the Soul Society. Now, having explained their high-ranking position, what exactly is the Central 46? What is this group made up of, and who are its members? Additionally, I want to go over the role that they play within the narrative of Bleach. To answer the first question, the Central Central 46 is basically the Supreme Court of the Soul Society, but even that isn't doing it much justice, because they seem to possess much greater power than the average judiciary body, because they are capable of making laws and enforcing them to great effect. They are essentially a super centralized government with no existing equivalent to check their power. All members of the Soul Society answer to the authority of the Central 46. They rule with authoritarian power, as any of their rulings quickly becomes unchangeable law. Due to the immense power that this single governing body holds, you'd be right to assume that it opens up the door to tyranny and the abuse of their power. Now, we do see this unfold in some manner during the Soul Society arc, after Aizen brutally murders all of the members of the Central 46, and he takes their place and begins to issue orders in their name. He uses the power of Kyoka-Suigetsu in order to pass some rather absurd orders, like Rukia's execution, which sends the Soul Society into a state of absolute chaos, with factions forming within the Gotei 13 who are either supporting or against Rukia's execution. When you consider that a single order from Aizen, who was posing as the Central 46, was able to cause this much chaos, you can appreciate that this is an indication of everything that is wrong with the system of the Soul Society and why it needs to change. Though it should be noted that a new Central 46 was created after Aizen had gotten rid of the old one. From that name alone, you can quickly deduce that this group is made up of 46 members. They consist of 40 sages or wise men and 6 judges that apparently have been chosen from all across the Soul Society. Now, the requirements to qualify as a sage or one of these 6 judges is unknown, and it's a bit terrifying to imagine why. I think this is because of just how many of these judges are most likely highly privileged members of the Soul Society's elite upper class. This is indicated in the way that they rule, which is mostly in the favor of the noble families. I'm pretty confident that if it was possible for more members of Rukongai to qualify to join the Central 46, then this large area of the Soul Society would have much better living conditions than it currently has. The Central 46 have an exclusive residential district within the Soul Society called the Tranquil Forest of Residential Towers. This gets mentioned within chapter 169 of the manga, and this area is apparently declared to be completely off limits to all residents of the Soul Society. Not even the Shinigami of the Gotei 13 can venture into that area. Now, this is further indication that the Central 46 consists of the most highest classed and privileged members of society, and they serve to support only those of similar class. They're extremely out of touch with the concerns of the common soul who resides within the Soul Society, and the fact that they live in this gated community further supports this idea. Now, I believe that the biggest flaw of this council is with how they conduct their hearings. These hearings take place within a specific underground hall on their compound. They're sealed in a circular formation, and their desks have these extensions that completely block their face. Now, these extensions have numbers on them that indicate which council member is seated on that position. Now, talking about the hearings themselves, they are very different from real-world courtroom hearings. The individual accused is given no real chance or means to defend themselves, and they're forced to serve whatever sentence they receive from the council. Their fates are pretty much sealed and decided by the time that they are brought in front of the council, and any attempt of trying to defend themselves or to justify their actions results in an arbitrary increase of their punishment. This, of course, is a very unjust and unfair system, which deems defendants as guilty until proven innocent. But here's the catch: you don't have any opportunity to prove your innocence here. As I've mentioned, the Central 46 are responsible for creating the myriad of laws that exist within the Soul Society. They were responsible for outlawing the transfer of Soul Reaper powers between Shinigamis and humans. They had also outlawed the use of forbidden Kido, and they were also the ones who had forbade the acquisition and use of hollow powers by Shinigami. All of these laws play a pivotal role within the narrative of the story, especially pertaining to the execution of Rukia, Urahara's banishment, and the reason why the hollowified Shinigami who become the Vizards was sentenced to be killed. Throughout the narrative of Bleach, the Central 46 make quite a number of different rulings and decisions that end up influencing the plot quite a bit, and I would like to go over a few examples. They were in fact responsible for telling Yamamoto to stop teaching Kenpachi Zaraki Zanjutsu. Now, this ends up being revealed within chapter 520, and it really sparks some interesting questions, as well as your mind to wonder what exactly Kenpachi had done on this first day of training to have caused such a reaction from the Central 46 in the first place. Or did the council simply become terrified of his potential after learning about his past via his fight with Unohana, or how he was able to one-shot the former captain of the 11th Division, Kikanjo, in order to fast-track himself into the rank of captain without even having acquired his own Bankai? The Central 46 may have realized his untapped potential, thus deciding to stop him from growing even more powerful, because the fear was that he may become so strong that the Central 46 had no means of fighting back against him. Another one of their notable rulings was when they had sentenced the Vizards to be executed as hollows, after they had developed hollow-like characteristics following Aizen's holification experiments. The council had decided to strip Kisuke Urahara of his powers and to banish him to the world of the living, while Tessai was ordered to be imprisoned for life for using forbidden Kido. Now, it's pretty comical to consider that the only good thing that the Central 46 had done within the narrative was sentencing Aizen to 20,000 years in prison, which is pretty pointless since Aizen is immortal, and especially when you consider that Tessai got life imprisonment and Aizen got a finite number of years, which he is guaranteed to live through. I just found these rulings to be very contradictory and bizarre. Thankfully, it's not all doom and gloom for the Central 46, as it seems that some things are beginning to change now. Now, this change was manifested through one of its members, and interestingly, the only known member of the Central 46. She is called Nayura Amakado, the daughter of one of the members of the old Central 46 that was killed by Aizen. Via her character, we get the only clues as to how the members of the Central 46 are chosen, as she was selected as her late father's replacement. Now, this supports my previous assumption that the council are guilty of nepotism, with members being selected because of their high class or family relations, further cementing how disconnected they are from the common soul, since membership to the Central 46 is gained by birthright alone. Now, Nayura Amakado was originally shown to be just an uncaring and inconsiderate individual, not too different from the other members of the Central 46. But things change when she meets Izuru Kira, and this meeting takes place right at the beginning of the Revive of Tomorrow light novel. After speaking with Kira, she begins to try to understand the plight of the lower class residents of the Soul Society. She starts to visit Rukongai and in fact observes the state that its residents are in, and she resolves to change how the Central 46 operates. And after the events of this light novel and the battle between Kira and Shaz Domino, she swears to prove to herself and others that the Central 46 isn't completely irredeemable, and it's through her desire to do this that results in her collaborating with the Soul Society in order to better the lives of all of the residents of Rukongai. This is why it's later revealed within the Can't Fear Your Own World light novels that the living conditions of Rukongai and the Soul Society in general have improved quite a bit. The Central 46, as a legislative force whose only good deed within the Bleach story was giving Aizen, an immortal criminal, a finite sentence, proves how incompetent and inconsiderate they are. But as I've revealed, things are now starting to change and they have learned the errors of their ways, and it's going to be interesting to see what role they play within the future of Bleach's story. Are the Central 46 going to be playing a role during the Hell arc? Are there secrets that they're keeping in relation to Hell that nobody else knows about? This group is one of the most important in the entire story of Bleach, but they are hardly ever spoken about, and it's for this reason that I've dedicated this video to them. Let me know all of your thoughts about the Central 46. Did you learn anything new about them from this video? Was there anything that I've forgotten to mention? As always, continue the discussion in the comments, and lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Bleach Explained video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.